What's going on, everybody? Beretti here with my boy RJ, as always. Say what's
What's
up, bro.
going on, everybody?
And we got a brand new video regarding Madam Web, Spider-Man, and just essentially the Sonyverse slash Marvelverse. What's going on? Obviously, we're going to leave this on the podcast channel. This will be the first podcast of the year on the YouTube channel, and we're going to cut this up into some TikToks. So do stay tuned for that on his channel and my channel. I will plug them both down below. But I think we should start about, let me pull it up real quick because I do know that there was a lot of Madam Web speculation going around, and this is essentially what I was given. Once again, take this with a grain of salt. This is a very unverified source who claims to know something. They went on to say, Madam Web is essentially going to take place in the Venomverse, where there currently isn't a Spider-Man. The reason there isn't a Spider-Man is because the villain, Ezekiel Sims, actually kills this Spider-Man when he was a baby. Towards the end of the movie, Madam Web will end up saving baby Peter Parker, meaning there will now be a baby Spider-Man there will now be a Spider-Man in the Venom universe. They most likely won't show who this version of Peter Parker is, but it's essentially down to either Holland or Garfield. If they go with Holland, there's a chance they'll reveal it by having a I don't know how to say her last name, Tomei cameo, Aunt May. Unlikely with this version being a variant of the MCU version. Now, I think what we should bring up first off with this whole thing is this sounds a lot like the news that, we were talking about recently that came out that I thought we were going to talk about during this video. It also goes to push that we do see baby Peter Parker in that scene in the trailer. If you watch real quick, it's
Yes, yeah.
What's the girl
Yeah,
that plays May or Mary? What's her name? She's from Oh my gosh, she's the blonde Emma Roberts.
There you go.
Yeah,
I knew it was Rob. Yeah.
she's Mary Parker, and she's in the water, and it shows the baby. And honestly,
Yeah, and that's when you see the symbiote hand on the left-hand side, right? Or that's what people speculate,
yeah,
know?
Exactly. Yeah, that we were going
I know
for
what you're
a long
talking
time.
about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, honestly, I think she might be dead right there. If I'm being honest, I think that she might be dead, and that obviously he takes the baby, but he has like a change of heart. And if they're smart, they would say, okay, well, we're going to introduce the inheritors, and we're going to hint on Morlun and all these other people.
And then it would make sense. That would make sense with, like you said, with the whole, especially with Craven coming out.
Exactly.
The whole totems and everything would go hand in hand with that, considering that's the next SSU movie, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely makes sense. And real quick, I do want to mention to you guys, so that was just our introduction to that part. We actually are going to start this thing where we're going to use a stopwatch. So I'm going to drop it on 5 minutes on the next conversation, which will be the next one. And essentially what it is it's going to be a 5-minute conversation or less, depending on what it is. And it'll keep us moving because we tend to sidetrack. We've done this in the past, and we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we go on for a while.
Yeah. So essentially, what we'll talk about first is this. So essentially today they were saying, and this came from Jeff Snyder, which many know as he's an inside source, but at the same time, I followed him for a long time. Man's 50-50. As any scooper, things change, we could say. Pretty much, I'll start it. Went on to say, Cinegeek News, Sony wanted Andrew Garfield to be the Spider-Man of the Madam Web universe, then later changed plans to Tom Holland. However, when they realized they did the time period wrong, so they had to reshoot and remove everything referencing Spider-Man in our particular year. Now, what I was told was this was early 90s. So with that being said, that could be Toby. We have seen a lot of the things that they're referring to, which even though but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it.
Certain time, because we've heard that this is going to have like a Terminator type plot where time travel being involved, right?
Exactly.
So we can because we know from the behind the scenes footage there is there is an early 2000s vibe, and you can tell by the posters, by the art, by the cars, by the stores, all that stuff. So we know it's early 2000s, which. I don't know, because you can have again with time travel, any time period's possible.
Yes.
So I don't know if Sony would necessarily, especially with a project this big, would do the time periods wrong.
Yeah,
because there's so many eyes on these projects. I'm sure somebody would have mentioned it.
The only problem though is, if you remember, was it Far From Home, where they did the 9-year thing? They said remember, it was Marvel, it was freshman year, and then it was 9 years later or whatever it said. Do you remember on that on the was it Far From Home, or was it freshman year? It said like 9 years later. Marvel's like, no, that's wrong. And then Miss Minutes in the behind the scene thing right now said, oh, it wasn't wrong. It was somebody at the TVA who got it wrong. It was a whole thing they talked about. I remember seeing that, and I was like, dude, that's crazy that they answered it, because clearly Sony was probably trolling. We have another 3 minutes on this topic if we want to go, but I wanted to add on to that. So essentially what happened was, tweet from Redacted Spider pretty much said this: let's paint a picture. Andrew Garfield won't work with Sony unless Marvel Studios is involved. And we've heard this a lot. We've known about this a lot. This was reported by Ember. This was reported by Toast. This was reported by everybody under the sun. RPK.
Yeah, but he also showed up from the Beyond the Spider-Verse press conference.
Yep.
So just that alone, is there some conversation going between him and Sony?
Debunking
just by
the
him.
Marvel thing. Yep.
That, because why wasn't nobody from the movie doing it? You have 3 live action Spider-Mans. They could have had Tom. They could have had Toby. Andrew does appear, and Toby does appear in Across the Spider-Verse as like in the canon events when they show that on the screen.
Yep.
So you could have had even like the main. You could have all of them there. Due to the success of No Way Home, you could have everybody there from the cast Across the Spider-Verse too.
Yep.
Like. Even Miles, Gwen, anybody could have hosted that. So just to pick Andrew like that, is just kind of shaky. You know what I mean? It makes me think that there is kind of something going on. And considering that he just dropped out of the Frankenstein movie too.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And then they also went to mention though that, and this was the next part, with, if you remember when Sony did that they pulled the deal. Tom Holland literally called up Bob Iger when Sony pulled out of the MCU. If you remember that, he was blasted drunk. Jake Johnson says he wants nothing to do with Sony live action films as well. And this person went on to say, like, do y'all get it? And once again, like you said, people are saying things like, oh, Andrew Garfield's not going to work with them. But why was he at that press conference? Why was he at that event? Why was he at that speaking? I totally understand where you're coming from, because it totally makes sense to say, like, in my opinion too, anybody who's scooping, whatever, like, you can be right, you can be wrong. It's 50-50. But I feel like if anybody goes on to say too much details when we realistically know, like, let's be real, they've been pushing Tom Holland forever. It's more than likely going to be Tom Holland. Like, Rhino from Amazing Spider-Man 2 is not the same Rhino from Kraven. Mm-hmm. And if Kraven is tied into the same universe, just like Madam Web is apparently 10 years before Venom, which means 10 years before Venom, which means Uncle Ben and Cassandra are friends, let's be real. It's going to build up to Tom Holland.
The only thing about the whole Sonyverse, the whole vibe of it is all like, it is the TASM vibe with it. You know what I mean? Like it has a TASM feel, but the timelines and how everything is and how everything I feel like it does fit better with Tom Holland, because you could say he's originally from the Sonyverse.
You could, and then he got pulled out by Venom.
He got pulled. Yeah, something happened. Yeah, and now he's this universe where he belongs doesn't have a Spider-Man, and that's where all these villains are, and that's where the Sky of them coming through and all that in No Way Home could connect to that.
And then cut it off. Right, wait. Now, so
there we go.
On to the next one. If anybody wants more information on that one, we will. This one I think was interesting that I sent you. Mm-hmm. Uncle Ben theory on the fortune cookie. Now, there was a quick minute TV spot, I guess you could say, that was Uncle Ben, and he had a fortune cookie. And JP Jordan actually went on to say, calling it now, that fortune he's holding is where we get the origin of, with great power comes great responsibility. Now, for this one, real quick, I'll do 3 minutes because it's a little shorter discussion. Go. So, what is your thoughts? What do you think about that?
Okay, Madam Web, having Uncle Ben get the great responsibility line, the famous line of probably I would say that's the right. Wouldn't you say that's probably the biggest, the most iconic line, maybe ever too? Right? Like it's a big one, and it's said throughout different movies. It's not even, people use it all the time. Yeah. I've heard that in tons of movies as like references, as a nod to Spider-Man. To have him get his iconic line from a fortune cookie is something that is Sony. It's something that I could see happening, and I necessarily don't think it's a terrible, kind of way to go with that. It's you can't get the whole phrase, because he says more than that. Like you have the whole speech with him and the whole stuff with Uncle Ben, and to Uncle Ben to get that from that and kind of like maybe think about that fortune cookie and then kind of learn and then add on to that through his experience through the film would be pretty neat. But I don't know, because it's going to be like a would you do it, would it to you? I want to know your opinion on this. Would this be to people, would this come off as more of a humorous joke at the end? Because we know Adam Scott, right? That's who's playing Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
He is a comedic actor, but he's also a serious actor. He has a lot of cool roles, and he has a show on Apple. I forgot what it's called, but it's I think it was Severance on Apple TV.
Yeah.
Really good show. It was a really good show. And then he also did like Krampus, and he's also in Step Brothers and all that. And so he's a really like cool actor. So how do you think that would be for the audience, like when they hear that great responsibility line, but it's from a fortune cookie?
I mean, I feel like it makes sense because it's kind of like one of those things where you're like, you randomly remember something and it sticks with you. Maybe he's at a time.
It's more human. It's more human.
Yeah, because
it does ground it. That's the thing.
And it could tie everything, because think about this. Madam Web essentially is the protector of the web, right? So by her learning it from him, who when she was a normal person before she gets these powers, just as an ambulance driver, maybe it's before they crash, and then she's like at the end, they're gonna say it, like she's gonna be like, with great power comes to the girls or something, and it's gonna kind of like spread.
It's the same thing as taking inspiration from a song, you know what I mean? There's lyrics, people, like everything, your day-to-day life affects you, from things that you hear on the radio, things that you hear in music, books, everything, you know what I mean? One-liners, all that stuff. So having it from a fortune cookie, a weird thing that he remembers, he adds on to that through his experience through the film, and then boom, you get that line at the end. And it makes it all come full circle, which is a cool twist. It kind of gives that origin to that iconic line, which I actually never seen done. I don't even think that's been done in a comic, right?
I don't know, man.
There's so many, so I don't nothing that I know of. So
I'm gonna cut us off there, but dude, that was touche. Which is gonna lead into the comic thing that you just said. Now this one, I think I'm gonna go 10 minutes because I feel like this is important. Even though if we don't hit 10 minutes, I feel like so I'm gonna bring up the thing first, and then I'll start the timer. The big thing that everybody's talking about is Ultimate Spider-Man issue number 1, and I know you've read it because you and me talk every single day. And
it's a good comic. I love it a lot.
I'm gonna start right now. So obviously, starts off from Ultimate Invasion, which is a 4-part comic where the maker ends up going from different universe to different universe, and he finds his eyes upon 6160. Obviously 616 with a 0 at the end. And he says, I'm going to take away certain characters. I'm going to ruin the Fantastic Four. I'm going to stop Spider-Man. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. But I can't change things like there has to be a Hulk. There has to be a Thor. Hence why Hulk is on the Illuminati, but the evil Illuminati. And then, there's these characters, and like Atlantis has to be there and Wakanda has to be there. But I'm going to do all these things. Then it gets into a battle where Tony Stark is with his dad, and his dad and Obadiah Stane are somewhere, and then like this missile shoots down and it blows up half of New York, and Tony Stark.
You read Invasion? I haven't read Invasion yet, but I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Cool. That's cool. You can keep going with it. I like the little.
Essentially, it is they're trying to frame Tony Stark.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. I got that.
That builds into Ultimate Universe, which is only issue 1, which is a tie-in to what's going on right now. It's a prelude, and essentially, they go and they get Thor, and then Thor's like, "Oh, I need my hammer," and Sif is the bigger character, and Captain America's in the ice, and they're trying to figure out how to get him out, and then all these people go, and you realize that Tony Stark is Iron Lad, but then there's Kang, and we don't know who Kang is, but it's Iron Kang, and then Reed Richards is Doctor Doom, and so on and so forth, and it's really cool because his Doctor Doom is blue and gray instead of green, and it just goes on, and pretty much it builds up to this comic that we get to, which is the Ultimate Spider-Man, to which Peter Parker obviously doesn't know why he's so important, but at the same time, he feels like he's missing something. So obviously, he's just a normal guy, family loved. He has everything you could dream of. He has everything he's ever wanted. His uncle's still alive. Yeah, his aunt died, but his uncle's still alive, who's like arguably a bigger person to him than Mary Jane, than his kids, than, and then obviously Norman Osborn is dead and his wife is dead, but Harry's alive. And so, there's just this like hate, Fisk owns the Daily Bugle. Uncle Ben and J. Jonah are friends, and J. Jonah loves Peter. And it's just a different twist. Obviously, I feel like they're going to add in Gwen Stacy, maybe possibly be a villain. We get this Iron Green Goblin that we don't know who it is. But anyways, the whole point is Peter at the end, lets the spider bite him. Tony says, if you want those powers, take it. Gets the flashbacks of Uncle Ben saying, take what you want. And Mary Jane saying, get him, Tiger, or whatever she says. Whole point of this is, where do you think we're going in the second issue? Obviously, we've seen the cover where it's the Green Goblin and Spider-Man, but where do you think we're actually going? What do you think the whole where we're pushing on this story?
So as we know, like, I just want to talk about like everything you said right there.
Here we go.
Everything I like how everything is, because again, like, I know people like don't like the whole always the whole Iron Man with the connection of Spider-Man.
Yep.
And then in this comic, you have Iron Man basically creating Spider-Man.
Yep.
But it's executed in a way where it's, I don't know how to really explain that, but it's very intriguing. It captures you to the moment to see what's going to happen next.
Yep.
And it doesn't feel like, Iron Man, Iron Lad, right? He's Kang, right?
Yeah, essentially, I would assume
he has the Kang armor under that, so which is pretty cool. I noticed that when I first read it. So and like you like it starts off pretty like because everybody's been wanting, they're hopping on the trend because everybody wants to see, I would say, Toby with the family. They want to see Mayday and all that, so they're kind of going with that trend. Mm-hmm. And how it opens up is, it's nice. He has the family and stuff. I didn't understand how Mayday, how that spear, that little round ball.
Exactly. I'm assuming Tony Stark put certain things around the world, because the thing I was going to actually ask you is, if you remember, he said, I have 5 other people that I need to create.
Was it 6?
Well, Peter's the 6th one.
There's 5, yeah.
So essentially, Avengers. So,
and he's like, before I walk out this door, like, I hope everything goes to plan, something like that.
But
he says.
You notice how he's not doing it. He's not forcing them. Like, so you have the Maker who's forcibly taking away everything, and you have Tony Stark who's giving people a choice. He's not like, you're Spider-Man. He's like, you have the ability to. Do you want these powers? Do you want to lose essentially some stuff? Do you want to have this responsibility? He's like, takes a spider.
Because the thing is, with that whole globe, I didn't understand how he got that, but you could tell Peter had like a weird connection with it, like it meant something to him.
Yep.
And then the whole thing, leads up, and Uncle Ben at the Daily Bugle, the whole thing, like Daily Bugle and stuff like that. The whole Kingpin buying is something Kingpin would do, nothing too out of the ordinary. I felt like J. Jonah Jameson was more of a father figure to Peter than Uncle Ben was. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that Peter in this comic got taken in by Aunt May and Uncle Ben later in life.
Yep.
Way later in life. So he, so they never had that, they never had that growth, you know what I mean? And Uncle Ben like talks to him like, I never want to take the spot of your father.
Yes, and he never said the great power thing.
No, and then like Uncle Ben and J. Jonah have like a little bit of a friendship going on. And then you have, you have like Peter like feeling that orb, like, hey, I meant for something greater, or something, more better than this. Like, I'm meant to do something with something. And then, he does the whole thing. You see the little symbiote like goo pop out, but it's, it's a suit. It's not the symbiote suit, right? Yeah. It's not the black. It's not like it's not a black suit. It's not a symbiote, right?
It's just symbiote like suit. Yeah.
It's like
we don't know the way that the covers.
Yeah, we don't know yet.
They're that awkward color. Like, I have that cover where Peter's against the glass. I don't have the one with Harry though, which we saw.
Yeah, so that's the thing going with Green Goblin. People are saying who's Green Goblin and stuff like that, and then they show it to be Harry on the cover, which I feel like that could be a diversion. Maybe Harry's the first one to be uncovered as the Goblin, but it doesn't do anything, and there's another, and he comes back. You know what I mean? And he's like, "Who's this one? Who's this one?" And like multiple people are playing Goblin. I think that'd be a cool, different kind of little scenario.
Like I told you, I wish it would be Mary Jane. Like, I just wish, like it, like or J. Jonah. Like, if it was J. Jonah Jameson.
Did you when you see J. Jonah? Like, there's a lot of possibilities. It's Harry on the cover, so Harry's definitely going to be one of them. I guess. Yeah. If they do multiple, or maybe he's the only one. I don't know if why would they reveal something like that on the cover. Who
do you think? Because we have 3 minutes left. Who do you think the other 5 are? Who do you think they're doing? We know they're doing Ultimate Black Panther.
I think Daredevil's one of them. He's in the comic.
Oh, the priest.
Yes, and I think his stuff is gonna. I think the radiation that hit his eyes has like late activation. You know what I mean? It's gonna activate later than as soon as it happened. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I'm
I think
wondering.
that
I'm wondering too if there's a Ghost Rider comic coming out. So,
I saw the Black Panther. I really want to pick that one up. I know there's X-Men coming out.
so it's
I don't know
February and
what they're
March.
how are they going to do the X-Men, because I feel like the X-Men. I feel like they're going to go the whole way. Like we came out to the public, but then we had to hide. Kind of like that whole little theory thing that we saw
What if
going.
they made it a way that the X gene never activates, or like I don't know. I feel like they're gonna do I feel like they're gonna do Fantastic Four too. I feel like they're going to, but obviously I feel like Reed Richards isn't there. I feel like it's gonna be like Johnny or like the Thing. Like I feel like it's
I,
weird. I feel like these are weird picks because the Hulk is a bad guy in this. He's in the Illuminati, but it's not Bruce
yep,
Banner. It's
yep.
another Hulk. So I'm just wondering like obviously maybe Black Panther, Spider-Man, maybe Daredevil. I don't think Tony's going to be involved in the 6. Obviously he will be. I say Captain America's in the ice, so I'm assuming Captain America is going to be number 4.
Okay.
I'm assuming Thor is going to be number 5 because Thor was also trying to free him. But the biggest one is the 6th member. Like is it going to be Reed Doom? Is it going to be maybe Doctor Doom?
It could even be Doom to stop the Maker.
Maybe Doom is Reed Richards.
That's in
like
that
how
it
weird
could
would that
work.
be?
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
it could
It's
work.
crazy. Like I'm so excited for this next comic, and it's like at the same time we don't know anything. Like we don't know anything about
It
it.
leaves you wanting more. It leaves you. It's a comic that feels like it shouldn't work, but it works, and
It's yeah.
it's such a unique premise, because I feel like if I was writing in this comic and I was like thinking about, I feel like it was a risk to put this first issue out. It's definitely a risk,
It was also
and
though it was a very big like this is the start. I think that's why so many people are into it because think about it. How often do you pick up a comic and you're like, where do I go? Like I have 500 plus comics, 1,000 plus comics in
you
my room, and I
you
just
think this is going to connect to the original Ultimate Comics?
no because that universe
Because
is
they're
dead.
capitalizing, but they're capitalizing like the whole art and stuff like that. Because I know I like seeing people so confused about that, and I'm like, it's
Yeah.
nothing to do with that, nothing to do with that. But I don't know. They could connect it somehow
Well,
in
they
a
could,
circle, bring that back.
yeah, because the maker did say he wants to recreate his universe. So yes, I
Yeah,
get that, but at the same time, for me, it's like, doesn't Miles miss his family? Doesn't Miles want to have it all over again? Like, why isn't Miles involved in this? Like, like obviously it's the maker, and oh, he did mention Miles. So in Secret Invasion, he told Miles if he ever want, oh shoot, 5 seconds. If Miles ever wants to join again, then he's offered to, and that's it. I'm gonna leave that there.
I got to read Secret Invasion. I really
Yeah,
do.
and then you got to read it where it's Miles and the Maker talk, and there's a whole conversation. But I'm gonna leave that there. Obviously this was the probably one of the shortest we've done. Let me see what we're at right now. We're at 22 minutes, so I'm gonna call that an end. Obviously, we will do this more often. We're also gonna talk about comic books on certain days, on Wednesdays, probably more than likely, and just whenever we have time. I know I'm pretty busy, but I am going to 100% make it a goal that I'm gonna at least do 2 days a week. That I'm gonna have it that way. It gives people more opportunity to ask their questions, whatever they want. We can tweet about that, and also Twitter is kind of boring right now. Like I'm growing exponentially fast, but like everybody's talking the same things. And I don't know if you saw that picture that Ember tweeted today and said it wasn't their tweet, but it was Wolverine and Deadpool, and it was the cut off sleeves. And I totally took all the pictures and I was like, okay, well, not the right belt buckle, not the right logo. That's Hugh Jackman's face from the Wolverine, not the same hair. The arms are too muscular to be him. Yes, they said CGI, but I feel like it's going to be his real arms just buffed up a little bit. That was like
Hmm.
blocks. So
Yeah,
with that being said, I think I'm going to tie this one up. Obviously, we can talk about our topics this week. I do want to welcome you to obviously being a member of the GeekyCast and obviously going around, you're doing your own things and all. But at the same time, I feel like we grow faster together. Even though
exactly.
we're different times, you and me kind of have like the same kind of schedule.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate it. Obviously, we're going to cut this down, put them on some TikToks, and obviously I'll let you do all the
Mhm.
rest of that part. But yeah, anything you have to say real quick, and then we
Been a
can
blast. I enjoy this. We got to do more of these, and yeah, I guess that's about it. There's nothing really too much to say.
yeah, and then we'll
I still got to read Secret Invasion. That's it.
yeah, and then we'll tie up next week. Maybe we'll do a early video on that, or maybe like we can do like Sunday recaps or something like that.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I am free on Sunday, so we can probably do that. But
Hmm.
I do enjoy all y'all who watch, who are listening, and yeah, drop us a like and make sure to follow. I'll leave all our things down below. Catch y'all in the next one.